We now come Sir Mel Stride, Shadow Chancellor of the Exchequer.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I beg to move the motion on the order paper. I trust you had a good recess, Mr Speaker. I'm absolutely certain that the Deputy Prime Minister also had a good recess. We saw many photographs of her down at the seaside, just off the coast, in a rubber dinghy, rather like many of the other photographs that we've seen over the summer, given the reckless policies that this government has towards illegal migration. She was probably celebrating, Mr Speaker, the acquisition of another property for her property empire, but perhaps also slightly tinged with that nagging doubt as to whether she had indeed paid enough stamp duty. Well, we will get to the bottom of that in due course. But those, Mr Speaker, who could not avoid paying the taxes imposed by this government are businesses right up and down our country, many of whom I took the time during the recess to visit. In the leisure sector alone, some 80,000 jobs have been destroyed by national insurance, particularly affecting those taking their first job, younger workers, part-time workers, female workers, jobs being destroyed. And while the Deputy Prime Minister was lounging on her boat with her wine, of course, this government was all at sea, like a cork bobbing on the tide, no control over the events that were swirling around them. And when it came to the economy, whilst eclipsed by the calamities around illegal migration, we saw the panicked reshuffle recently of the Treasury front bench. And I would like at this point, Mr Speaker, to offer my congratulations to warmly welcome the Honourable Member for Chipping Barnet to his new role, but to tell him that he is joining a sinking ship in which the captain has just had all her authority stripped from her, and all his comrades down below deck are fiercely trying to bail out the situation. I'd also like to offer a fond farewell to the former Chief Secretary to the Treasury, Mr Speaker, who no doubt thought he was very clever when he leapt off this sinking ship. But he won't be feeling quite so clever when he discovers that the place to which they have sent him is even more dysfunctional than the Treasury front bench. And over the summer, Mr Speaker, amongst all this news of arrivals to our shores, we've had a cruel summer of speculation around tax. We've seen in those skies clouds of kites flown largely by the Treasury as to what taxes they are going to be putting up. It's all been tax, tax and tax. I'm reminded, Mr Speaker, of the Beatles and the taxman. I'll tax the street. If you try to sit up, I'll tax your seat. If you get too cold, I'll tax the heat. If you take a walk, I'll tax your feet. When it comes to tax, Mr Speaker, it's not so much good day sunshine as help. OK, it was a bit hammy, but it was worth a try. I was going to try, actually, Mr Speaker, Penny Lane as well, but I drew the line at that. But, Mr Speaker, it is worth examining how we got to this point, for a reckoning for our country is surely coming. This will be a story for all time. It started, I will momentarily, it started with broken promises. This was a party that said during the run-up to the general election that they had no intention of raising taxes left, right and centre, and yet within a month or two they did precisely that, with devastating consequences. Tax rises on businesses that stifled growth. They talked down the economy. They talked down the economy by confecting this £22 billion black hole that did not exist. And what irony that it was they that brought in the OBR to decide whether that £22 billion black hole existed, and it was the OBR themselves that said they could not legitimise that claim. They were wrong.
That's what he said.
And what happened with spending and borrowing? It got completely out of control. And the combination of passing on price rises because of the national insurance increases and the extra borrowing and spending has been higher inflation. We are an outlier, Mr Speaker, when it comes to inflation, in a moment. And that in turn has seen interest rates higher for longer, and the servicing costs on our national debt now running at over £100 billion a year, that being over twice what we spend on defence. And I will give way to whoever it was behind me. Yes.
I thank my right honourable friend for giving way. Would he agree with me that this loss of market confidence demands decisive action from the government at the budget to correct it, and that decisive action cannot solely be taken on the tax side, because the tax side is what's driven us into this loop. We need decisive action on spending, and particularly on welfare, if we're to see some restoration of market confidence and to get ourselves out of this rut.
My right honourable friend, as ever, is absolutely right. The reality is, and you see it in the bond yields that there are at the moment, that the markets have no confidence in the ability of this government to actually get on top of spending. And we saw the farce of a government that came to office scrapping the £5 billion worth of welfare savings that were already baked into the OBR's scorecard because we had brought them in, attempting then to bring forward their own reforms and their own backbenchers then voting them down. This government does not have the will or the plan to deal with spending. And that is at the heart, and this is where my right honourable friend is so right, at the heart of the reason why we will all be punished and pay the price of more taxes come the budget in November. I'll give way to the
Mr. Speaker, can I commend the Shadow Minister for bringing this forward? The Shadow Minister has quite clearly shared the deep concern that I have, and I think everybody in this chamber should have, that government is considering further taxing property, despite that the Prime Minister committed to not impose capital gains tax on residents of this United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. Last year it was a family inheritance tax. This year, those who own property, those who have skimped and saved to have their house, those middle class, those hard workers who have now become the latest target of Labour tax policy.
Well, the right honourable gentleman is entirely right. Of course, if you get into a situation where you are having to scrabble around and look at property taxes, as we will be debating this afternoon, then really nothing is safe from the taxman under this government. I think there was somebody else trying to intervene. Yes, give way to the
Thank the honourable member for giving way. Could I gently remind him that since this Labour government came to power, interest rates have been cut 5 times. A vote of confidence in our Chancellor fixing the foundations of our economy, saving an average family on an average tracker mortgage in my constituency over £100 a month. Can he remind me what happened to interest rates when his party was in power?
As the honourable lady will know, interest rates are one of the key tools in monetary policy, and they are applied to bring down inflation. And whilst there have been 5 reductions, and she is right, in the level of the base rate, there should have been many more reductions. And the reason is, the evidence is there, the reason is that this government has stoked inflation. We have inflation that is still been rising. It is at twice the level, or thereabouts, that it was on the day of the last general election. And when a government stokes inflation, you pay the price through higher interest rates, and that is precisely what has been happening. But yeah, I'll give way to
my right honourable friend, and he's right to highlight the massive impact of these tax rises on so many families up and down this country, and businesses too. Can he comment, please, on how we can have a Deputy Prime Minister in a government who has admitted avoiding paying the tax that she owed and continues in office, and this from a party which moved to call for the resignation of people for far lower offences than that, and is this not exposed the rank hypocrisy which seems to run right through the government opposite?
If the right honourable lady wants to make the rules, she should live by them. And that will be a message which will go out to businesses and families right up and down this country. There is no way that they can avoid the juggernaut of taxes that are coming down the track. I will give way to the right honourable gentleman.
And in return for his generosity, I'm going to say something pleasant about the last Conservative government. And now, wait for it. And the last, wait for it. Just the one thing. The last government allowed councils like Westmoreland Furness, run by the Liberal Democrats, to double council tax on second homes. It is right to do that because excessive second home ownership absolutely annihilates communities in the Lakes and the Dales, the West Country and elsewhere. Yeah. But can I encourage his party and the party in government now to do something we should do much more to limit the number of second homes than that? And that is to bring in a new planning category of use so that, like the national parks and councils, can manage the numbers and save communities.
Yeah. Well, I thank him for his intervention. I thank him for his kind words about the Conservative Party as well. I'm sure they're deeply felt and very, very genuine. What I would say, Mr. Speaker, is that what the Deputy Prime Minister should be doing is delivering more homes. And it is quite clear that the 1.5 million homes that they are claiming they will be delivering at the rate of 300,000 a year is not going to be met. And I'm quite happy at some point in the future to be proven wrong, but I very much suspect that unfortunately I will not be. But, Mr. Speaker, where we have ended up is in a situation where we have a huge black hole looming. The National Institute for Economic and Social Research puts that at possibly as much as £40 billion. This is a recurrent theme with the economic mismanagement of the party opposite. In the October budget, the first budget, there was headroom of around £10 billion against the fiscal rule. That was blown, and £4 billion more by the time of the spring statement, the emergency budget in the spring. And once again, it appears that even that, and considerably more, has been blown all over again. And that is no surprise when it came to the U-turn on winter fuel payments, when it came on to the U-turn on the welfare reforms that we've already discussed in this debate. That led to unfunded commitments of around £6 billion. Unfunded commitments that the Chancellor said the Labour Party would never find themselves in that situation. That has simply not happened. And what signal does it send to the markets that this government cannot control spending? And in the long term, it will be interesting to see what the ABR has to say about their forecasts for growth going forward. And we've seen 30-year bond yields now, Mr. Speaker, in recent times hitting a 27-year high. We are paying more on our borrowing than Greece. There is potentially now a debt crisis looming. This country could be on the brink, and it is all on their watch. I'll certainly give way to the Honourable Gentleman.
Of course, this government inherited higher bond yields than many other countries. And right now, bond yields are going up in Japan, Germany, United States. Is the Chancellor responsible for all of this?
Well, there's no doubt that under the last government there was a need to support the economy, and that, for example, involved the expenditure of £400 billion, not least on the furlough scheme, which, and I don't remember his party at the time saying that we shouldn't do that. They were actually arguing we should go still further than that. And this, the Conservative government stepped in and supported jobs and saved us going into the kind of mass unemployment that many feared, worse than even the 1980s. And I take great pride in that. But we are where we are now, and what this government should be doing is growing this economy, stoking up business sentiment, getting taxes down, and getting the economy moving. And it is doing precisely the opposite. I give way to my friend.
I'm grateful to the Shadow Secretary of State for giving way. And isn't the key point here, and the difference here, is that we are seeing stagflation, so high inflation and the economy not growing in the way in which it should be. Therefore, we are getting the job losses that we're seeing and unemployment going up every month under this Labour government. Unless the government does something drastically different, this is only going to get worse rather than get better, which impacts our growth prospects and therefore our prosperity, not only of our nation, but the individuals who work and try to thrive here.
Right, my honourable friend is absolutely right. We're seeing high inflation, we're seeing anemic growth, we're seeing high gilt yields, we're seeing a pound that has been plummeting in recent times, and all of those are signals on the dashboard that are flashing red. Instead of getting a grip on spending and getting taxes down, this government has been out there pitch rolling yet more taxes. And over the summer, we have seen the briefings into the press have suggested tax rises on property. And the party opposite has an opportunity this afternoon to rule those possibilities out. And we should look to the Minister when he responds to do just that. Firstly, there has been the suggestion, Mr Speaker, that there will be changes to private residence relief under the capital gains tax regime. Something that would strike right at the heart of our country as a property-owning democracy. People being penalised simply for selling up and moving home. It would have clear implications for bunging up the property market. It would have clear economic implications for causing friction in the process of people moving from one part of the country to the other, often in search of work. And it would mean that where downsizing would be beneficial in providing more homes for people to live in, it would discourage that. Now, the Prime Minister, Mr Speaker, before the election, said that there never was a policy of this type, so it doesn't need ruling out. But let's rule it out in case anyone pretends that there was. So perhaps I could ask the Minister, when he responds, to confirm that he still stands by the words of the Prime Minister. Secondly, an annual tax on homes. What a tax on aspiration. What a tax on those people who have saved hard, managed to get onto the property ladder, and are then stuck with annual taxes. What about those who are asset rich but income poor and can't afford to pay them, and they're expected to sell up? Will the Minister, when he comes to the dispatch box, rule that possibility out and keep people's minds at rest? And if that was not enough, Mr Speaker, we hear also that it may be that we'll be looking at changes to the gifting regime within inheritance tax. They're not content just to pulverise the farmers. They're not content just to pulverise the family businesses, seeing those businesses and farms broken up when they're passed on from one generation to another because of the imposition of the tax, something which in fact it was a Labour government back in the 1970s that brought in the reliefs that this government has now chosen to abolish. I will in just a second. Inheritance tax is going to double in terms of its yield over this Parliament. And we say enough is enough on this side of the House. We should not be punishing parents who wish to pass something on to their children. Socialists do not understand. We do not all stand as atomised individuals. We work together as families, as communities. We care about each other. We care about the people we love. And it is right that we have the opportunity to pass something on to them. And I give way to...
I thank the Shadow Chancellor and for bringing this debate as well. It's such an important issue. Properties and assets are vital to the country, to people in the country. But specifically on the lifetime limit for inheritance tax and passing on, everyone will have heard over the last year the government telling farmers, telling family businesses that they need to get their affairs in order, but they need to plan. The lifetime cap, the limit, not having a limit on the lifetime cap was what allowed them to plan. If that is cut, if the cap is not in the right place, that negates every argument that the government have had in the last year as to why they think they could justify the family farm and family business tax. In responding, can the Minister please acknowledge this and rule out any change to that cap which will penalise these family farms and family businesses?
The Honourable Lady has put it brilliantly and succinctly. She is absolutely right. In their horror, in their recoil at some of the inheritance tax changes, that's exactly what farmers and family business owners have been doing. They've been thinking about the alternatives, and the 7-year rule has been exactly one of those alternatives. And it would be really heartless, an extraordinarily cruel moment if this government were now to shut that down as well. I certainly give way to my...
Very grateful to my right honourable friend, and he's explaining the situation in his usual powerful way. If, as seems likely, this government does impose capital gains tax on a person's principal private residence, will he then, as mitigation, consider whether there should be indexation allowance, at least, to provide some relief to the horror that I fear is about to be inflicted on my constituents? And my right honourable friend will remember that the Finance Act of 2008 abolished that relief on other property. I suspect the government will not be sympathetic to such a suggestion, given what happened in 2008, but at least it would take the edge off the imposition of taxes on the sale of a person's principal private residence.
Right honourable friend raises his point in his usual very eloquent manner, and that is a question for the Minister. And perhaps when the Minister rises to the dispatch box, he can hopefully rule out our concerns in their entirety. But in the event that he cannot, perhaps he would choose to answer the right honourable gentleman's inquiry. Is it not the case, Mr Speaker, that there is a clear misunderstanding from the party opposite because they have no business experience? There is no business experience on the front bench of the government when it comes to setting up companies, understanding the meaning of business taxes. It's simply not there. And that Labour will, of course, be talking now about taxing wealth. Do they not understand that if you tax wealth, you will get less of it? It is estimated, Mr Speaker, that around 15,000 high net worth individuals have left our country under the period in which this government has been in power. And a consequence of that is that the tax that just walked out the door will require something around 1/3 to 500,000 people on average earnings to make up the difference. It is not a case of good riddance to wealth, Mr Speaker. It is a case of we should, as this party will, be the party that encourages and turbocharges it at every turn. If I'm an honourable friend, I will certainly give way. Thank you.
I'm sure Hansard will correct me. My honourable friend just made some comments around high net worth, high value individuals. I'm particularly interested in my constituency about individuals on low incomes, representing a city in Peterborough with one of the highest levels of 0 hours and chronically insecure work in the thing. Does he not agree that his party often wants all of the spending but none of the delivery for the funding to do that? He's talked about reducing taxation on some of the higher net worth. Could he also talk about which doctors' surgeries in my constituency would receive cuts under his plans, which individuals would receive no protection from employment rights, and how the people of Peterborough will be worse off because he wants to reduce the spending which will fix the foundations of this country?
Well, the honourable gentleman refers to spending and cutting spending. His party attempted to cut spending, of course, and entirely failed to do so. And my point is, if he wants money to spend on public services, he does need, the honourable gentleman should worry about cutting welfare. And I don't know how the honourable gentleman voted when it came to putting that to the test in this House. But if he in any way voted against his own government and getting on top of the welfare bill, then he should ask that his question of himself. When it comes to those on low incomes, they are precisely the people who are being devastated now by the national insurance increase. Because what we know is it's not just an increase in the rate, it's been a substantial reduction in the threshold at which national insurance now kicks in. And that has meant higher unemployment, particularly amongst younger workers, amongst part-time workers, amongst women, amongst people getting that vital first job so they can get themselves on a career path. They are the people that his government is punishing most. And I give way to my honourable friend.
I'm grateful to the Shadow Chancellor for giving way. And isn't this exactly the point? That 1% of income tax is paid for by 1% of the top earners pay almost 30% of income tax. So if we lose those people, we damage the very people who need the support and the investment from the very taxpayers that we've just scared off. Shouldn't the reverse happen? We attract more people into this country to spend more money, to be able to have more money for those services through tax collection.
Yeah, the honourable gentleman is absolutely right. And I have already shared with the House, Mr Speaker, that classic example of the number of people who have left this country because of a punitive tax regime and the cost that it leads to. I will give way to my right honourable friend and then to the...
my honourable friend's... Thank you. Further to my honourable friend's excellent point, that the party opposite denigrate wealthy individuals that choose to come to this country. It's not just the tax that they provide, it's the jobs and opportunities they create by investing in constituencies up and down the country. This country has prospered for hundreds of years by being open and welcoming to inward investment. If we lose that, we lose a key plank of the competitiveness and growth that we have associated with our economy.
Right, we live in a highly mobile world, Mr. Speaker. It is quite easy for people with substantial wealth or money to invest to go anywhere in the world. We have to remain competitive, and this government is making us less competitive. Now, my right honourable friend mentions unemployment. Just look at the record. Should we really have expected any more from this government? No, not really. Every single Labour government in history has left unemployment higher when they left office than it was at the time that they came into office. And what have we seen on unemployment since this government's been in office? It's increased every single month since they've been in power. I give way to the honourable lady.
I thank him for giving way. He has spent the last 5 minutes circling around figures gathered by a consultancy that aids the super wealthy to migrate from this country. So I ask him, where is the Conservative Party getting its economic ideas from? Because it speaks volumes that he has spent so much of this point speaking for the 15,000 high net worth individuals who are served by that consultancy. The previous point speaking about inheritance tax, which is only paid by 4% of all estates in the UK. What will the Conservative Party do, if he has any ideas, to grow the economy for the benefit of all people in this country?
The honourable lady asked where we're getting our ideas from. Where we are not getting them from are academics and researchers who believe in taxing wealth and who are now sitting there on the Treasury front bench or in places where they're advising elsewhere in and around Number 10, and who talk on a regular basis about taxing property and taxing wealth and taxing shares and taxing assets of any description that they can think of. That is the road to ruin. And she asked where we get our ideas. I'll tell her where we get our ideas from. I set up my own business in the 1980s from absolutely nothing. And I grew it from scratch. And then I took it over to America and I grew a business there. And I have lived, breathed and eaten business most of my life. And I go up and down the country and I speak to those businesses, and they are the people that understand what needs to be done on the tax front. They're the people that have to live with the red tape that her party is bringing in to tie them down. So they're the people that this party is listening to. I give way to the honourable gentleman.
I thank the honourable gentleman for giving way. He has talked at great length about taxing the wealthy. He's omitted one of the suggestions that has come forth over the summer, which is getting rid of the punitive council tax system that taxes poverty and deprivation in this country. The former Conservative leader of Hartlepool Borough Council famously cheered when he put up council tax on deprived people in Hartlepool. Why is the Conservative Party, and now Reform as he's defected to Reform, so attached to this regressive system?
Mr. Speaker, I think all systems like council tax with different variants on it and revaluations and things that government should look at, because we don't want them to be entirely static and they're always there for reform and change. But I would just observe that when it comes to the level of council tax to which the honourable gentleman referred, if you take the average council tax paid in Labour areas, it is demonstrably higher than the equivalent taxes in Conservative areas. And that comes down to the approach that a Conservative council takes to spending, to making sure councils are efficiently run, and the profligate approach of the party opposite. I'll give way to the honourable gentleman.
I thank the honourable member for giving way. One of the suggestions this government heard earlier this year was from Conservative-run Hampshire County Council, who suggested that they increase the council tax of my constituents by 15%, which was blocked by this government and the Secretary of State. Will he join me in condemning that proposal by the Conservative-run Hampshire County Council to increase council tax by 15%?
I'm not going to get into specific things going on in his area. Why would I be expected? Why would I be expected to opine with authority on something relating to his constituency of that nature? But my general point, my general point stands that it is a simple fact that Labour-controlled local authorities charge more for council tax than Conservative-run councils. I'll give way to the honourable lady.
Can I just say that, please, you can't just hang up in the air. If she's going to give way, please. Emily Darlington.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In fact, that is not a fact. The reality is, in my region, Milton Keynes, the Labour-run local authority, has lower taxes than all the surrounding Tory authorities, including Northamptonshire, which has failed over and over again. Now two Conservative, now Reform councils that have failed, and Buckinghamshire. Milton Keynes has been labelled by the LGA as one of the best-run councils and still delivers lower council tax than all those Tory-run authorities.
The point of, as a simple matter of logic, even if the Honourable Lady's assertion were true, and I don't know whether it's true or not, it does not actually contradict the point that I made, and that is the point. Now, is there somebody that was waiting? Yeah.
Chancellor, just say, wasn't it that this Prime Minister currently who said not a penny more on council tax when he came through? Is the Shadow Chancellor aware of how that worked out?
In a word, badly. Anyway, yes, the Honourable Gentleman. Yeah.
I did just want to return to the point the Honourable Member made a moment ago. He suggested he's not going to get into speculation. I mean, this whole debate is premised on media speculation. And yet I'm asking the Honourable Member to comment on an actual proposal that was made to the government to increase local council tax for my constituents by 15% by a Conservative-run county council. So he asked us to vote on media speculation, but he won't comment on an actual proposal.
The point is, Mr. Speaker, very clear, and I think I do need to now start to make some progress as well, and have been fairly generous in taking interventions, is, as I say, that when it comes to council tax, it is a fact that Conservative-controlled councils charge less. And they do that because their whole approach to running the council, as ours is in terms of our approach to running an economy, is to make sure it's done efficiently, and we do not impose undue burdens on people by way of tax. But, Mr. Speaker, we were told when it comes to tax by the Chancellor back in that first budget in the autumn that those tax hikes were a once-in-a-Parliament event. It's now not a question of whether there will be further tax increases. It's a question of which taxes. And the uncertainty that has flowed from this disastrous situation over the summer has meant that there has been a hold on businesses investing, on property transactions, on choices, and in many ways, in a fundamental way, on some of the freedoms, actually, that we as citizens take often for granted. And that is because of Labour's choices. Mr. Speaker, the party opposite will desperately dismiss all of this as press speculation, and I expect to hear that from the Minister in a moment. But it's not the truth that this sorry tale is entirely of their own making. The inevitable result of their choices and the failure that has followed, with much of this speculation seeming to be fuelled by briefings from within government itself. This House, Mr. Speaker, and the public deserve answers. The Chancellor cannot borrow more and has shown no ability to control spending. That can only leave tax. But which taxes will it be? Are family homes safe, or are they simply fair game? Mr. Speaker, if the Labour Party failed to vote for the simple motion we have before us today, then it will be clear what the answer is. Under this Labour government, nothing is safe. Not your home, not your pension, not your savings, not your business, not your farm, not that which you simply wish to pass on to your own children. The message to hard-working people up and down our country could not be clearer. Labour will always duck the hard choices. They will tax the living daylights out of your family's future to pay for their failure.
Sorry? I hope somebody wasn't saying hypocrisy. I'm sure it wasn't the case.